Turn up your Tiffany cassettes, inject your friends with the Cosby Special. It's been 84 years since the last season of Stranger Things, but don't worry, like an 80s power ballad, I'm ready to guide you through the storm that's the upside down with some of the craziest theories out there. Will Eddie return? Are Will and Eleven related? Why is Henry afraid of the cave? What's behind the meat wall? Why am I single? Answers to these and so much more in the video, but be warned, there will be Stranger Things stage play and A Wrinkle in Time spoilers. Like and subscribe, I'll see you on the other side. I want to kick off this video with what I think is the storyline that offers the most clues as to what's going on in Hawkins. That's Max and her journey into Vecna's memories. At the end of season 4, Max bravely used herself as bait to lure Vecna. Vecna snapped her limbs and made her blind, resulting in her death. This death fulfilled Vecna's requirements in creating 4 gates that would rip a hole in the very fabric of reality, destroying the barrier between the right side up and the upside down. Each gate was created by murdering someone in a particularly gruesome manner. These included Chrissy Cunningham, Fred Benson, Patrick McKinney, and finally Max herself. Although Max died for over a minute, she was successfully resuscitated and now remains unresponsive in a coma at Hawkins Hospital. Eleven went searching for her in the psychic void, hoping she might find her there, but the search turned up nothing. That's because Max has turned up somewhere strange. Vecna, or should I say, Henry Creel's memories. Holly Wheeler will ask her how she can be in 2 places at once, the hospital in Hawkins and this memory world, but Max never ends up answering this question. We know that Max's physical body is back in Hawkins, meaning what we're seeing in the memory world is not physically her, rather a manifestation of her consciousness. This would imply that Holly too is not actually here. Her physical body is likely tied to a spire in Dimension X, which we saw in Will's vision. But Max hasn't been taken like Holly. How is she here? In season 4, Dr. Brenner stated that when Vecna kills, he consumes them. They're not gone, they are with him. Part of Max is with Vecna, even though she came back to life. As Max later states, Vecna's curse never leaves you. Later in the video, we'll talk about how other characters like Will have a special connection with him. The very fact Vecna's memories can be accessed means we could get scenes with past dead characters like Barb, Billy, or even Eddie. There's actually a theory out there that Eddie will return as Kas the Bloody-Handed. In D&D, he was Vecna's loyal lieutenant who became a vampire after being bitten by bats, and Eddie just so happened to be bitten by bats in season 4. One of the more interesting memories we get a glimpse of is Hawkins High School in 1959. Here we see a young Joyce handing out flyers for her troupe's production of Oklahoma. In the prequel stage play Stranger Things: The First Shadow, the school administration wants Joyce and the drama department to perform this safe and traditional musical, but Joyce ends up choosing the more controversial Southern Gothic play Dark of the Moon, about a witch boy who falls in love with a human girl. That witch boy is played by none other than Henry Creel, who we can see on the advertisement for Oklahoma. If you haven't seen Stranger Things: The First Shadow, it completely recontextualizes Henry Creel's origin story. He was not born a psychopath, but was the victim of a much larger cosmic horror. This ties into Max and the cave. Why was Henry terrified to enter? It all boils down to when he was a kid growing up in 1947 Nevada, which might explain this landscape in the background. At the time, he lived there and wandered off into a nearby cave. There he found a piece of stolen government tech that transported him to Dimension X for 12 hours. Dimension X is like the world beyond the Upside Down, where Vecna was banished. When he came back, he unknowingly brought back with him the Shadow, aka the Mind Flayer, which had entered his blood. His powers, therefore, are the result of this alien infection, not because he was this natural-born psychopath. If you haven't seen The First Shadow, I recommend you give it a watch. It makes Henry a more sympathetic character and outlines how he went from outcast drama nerd to Dr. Brenner's first lab experiment. I also think it's fun we'll see Steve Harrington's dad, plus a slew of familiar names performing, including a young Jim Hopper, Karen Childress, who will later marry and become Karen Wheeler, Patty Newby, Bob Newby's adopted sister who Henry Creel falls in love with, Alan Munson, Eddie Munson's father, and Ted Wheeler, Nancy, Mike, and Holly's father. The date of this performance is also interesting, November 6th, arguably the most important date in the Stranger Things universe. It's the day everything started, the day 11 made contact with the Demogorgon, creating the Mother Gate, and it's also the night Will Byers was abducted. November 6, 1983 is also the date the Upside Down is frozen in. When Nancy finds her diary there, the last entry is that same date. The Duffer Brothers have stated that answering why the world is frozen on that specific date is key to defeating Vecna in the final season. Max tells Holly that she has a plan to get them out of here, but it involves Holly going back to Henry's and pretending that everything is normal. At the end of Volume 1, the other children are captured by Vecna, where he'll likely put them under the same spell that brought Holly to this world. There, Holly can work with the other children on finding a way to escape. But unlike Max, their bodies aren't in a hospital in Hawkins. They're likely in Dimension X as seen in Will's vision. Think of it like the movie Inception. Instead of a dream within a dream within a dream, we have Vecna's memory within a dimension, Dimension X, which connects to the Upside Down, which connects to our world. It will take a huge amount of coordination to wake these kids up and usher them safely from Dimension X to our world. We'll see Holly mention Madeleine L'Engle's novel A Wrinkle in Time, which the Duffer Brothers have explicitly cited as a major influence on the show. In it, a disembodied, pulsating brain called It lives on the planet Camazotz, where it controls the entire population through mind control, similar to what Vecna wants to do with his Hive Mind. Holly says Max is like the main character Meg's father, Mr. Murray. Like Max, he's not dead, but imprisoned on the dark planet of Camazotz, just like Max refers to her being a prisoner in Vecna's memories. In the novel, Mr. Murray is saved by Meg by using an item, in this case glasses, to free him. This suggests Max will need some sort of item to escape, and we get a brief hint of what this item could be with Lucas in the cassette tape playing Kate Bush's Running Up That Hill. Max tells us that music seems to bridge the gap between Vecna's memories and the real world. She almost makes it out before the cassette tape jams. Holly too has a connection with music and the pop star Tiffany, however it's unclear if that will be how she escapes. Music acts as one of a few weapons that can break Vecna's psychic control. It allows the listener to unlock happy memories, giving them the strength to break free. This is what happens to Max in Season 4. It's also what Eddie Munson uses to draw away the Demobats from the Creel house, allowing Steve, Nancy, and Robin to attack Vecna's physical body. But back to A Wrinkle in Time, it just might hint at how Vecna can be destroyed. The villain It is incredibly strong, too strong to be defeated by logic or strength alone. Its weakness, however, is love. The final battle with Vecna will likely see one, if not all our characters, using this love to sever the connection between Vecna and our world. We've already seen how Max used love to escape Vecna's grasp by running toward a happy memory, that of the snowball kiss. In this way, love acts as a literal portal between Vecna's world and our own. Love might also explain why the Upside Down is frozen on November 6, 1983. Will used his memory of something he loved, his home, to shape the Upside Down into something familiar. The final moments of Volume 1 are all memories of things he loved, playing with Mike and building Castle Byers, the fort he made with his brother. This is something he destroyed in Season 3 after realizing his best friends were obsessed with girls and growing up, leaving him feeling left behind. Castle Byers still exists intact in the Upside Down, as it's frozen in time. This might prove integral in the episodes to come. Over the past few seasons, Will has had to come to terms with his sexuality, and in particular, his romantic feelings for Mike, which he knows will never be reciprocated. It's through Robin that he learns the answers to who he is don't lie in Mike, they lie within himself. This relates to the title of the episode, Sorcerer. Even though Will's D&D character is a wizard, Mike tells him he's more of a sorcerer. His skills come from within and not from something else like a spellbook. We'll even see a reference to another famous wizard/sorcerer, Merlin, from Disney's The Sword in the Stone. Robin empathizes with Will because she had the same experience of being in love with someone who would never love her back, but when she stopped being scared of who she was, it was like a weight lifted off her shoulders. She was finally free to be who she's always been, and this, in and of itself, is an act of love, an act of self-love. It's the strength that gives Will the ability to do what he never thought possible, to control the Demogorgons just like Vecna. Will Byers has quite possibly the most amount of screen time in Volume 1. When we left him at the end of Season 4, he told Mike that he could feel Vecna touching the back of his neck and getting these goosebumps. This season even begins with a flashback to Will's first meeting with Vecna, which occurred back in '83. This connection has essentially bound Will to Vecna and the Hive Mind in mysterious ways. For example, Will can see who Vecna controls, such as the Demogorgons and Mr. Whatsit. Mr. Whatsit, based off the Wrinkle in Time character Mrs. Whatsit, appears to the children as Henry Creel, Vecna's human form. This is how he gains their trust and lures them back to his dimension. And this is how Will knows who Vecna's next target will be. With Vecna returned, Will once again feels his pull. Raman will later theorize that Will acts as a sort of Vecna antenna. He can pick up mind flayer particles like radio waves. In episode 4, Will receives a signal so strong it shows Holly and 3 other children attached to these spires. He says he got the feeling he wasn't supposed to see this. Will's painting shows 12 of these spires with 4 of them already occupied, meaning Vecna will be after 8 more children. The number 12 could point to a few things. Vecna has long been associated with a grandfather clock, which has 12 hours. Then there's a possibility of a connection to the Hawkins experimental children. 11 was the last known number, but what if there were 12? And finally, a biblical reference. Jesus had 12 disciples or followers, and when Vecna takes away the children, he tells Will that they've been chosen to reshape the world. Maybe he plans to make them his followers as he takes over the world. What I found really interesting is that Vecna lets Will live. He could have killed him here, but he just lets him go. There are a few possible explanations for this. One, Will might be physically connected to Vecna in a sort of Harry Potter Voldemort kind of way. Neither can live while the other survives. We do know when the Demogorgons feel pain, so too does Will. In what other ways is Will connected to Vecna? Second, Will may yet prove useful to him. Will's kind of like this two-way radio, and Vecna could use him to see what's happening up top. Third, Will is kind of like Henry Creel, an artistic, introverted child he might be able to mold into a potential protege. He does say that Will was chosen because he was weak, making him easy to mold. 4, Will's existence might be the only thing holding the Upside Down together, and if the Upside Down were to go, so too does Vecna's dimensional connection to it. We'll see Will's nosebleed just like 11's, a kind of universal symbol in the Stranger Things universe of psionic exertion. This would make Will the only other person to develop these powers without having been a test subject in the Rainbow Room. It also suggests that the prolonged exposure to the Dimension X entities he experienced while in the Upside Down may have changed him, just like Henry Creel's exposure when he was transported to Dimension X as a child. But the distinction should be noted, that Henry conquered and mastered Dimension X through the particles that make it up. The opposite happened to Will. The particles shaped him. He adapted, making him a sort of hybrid between these two worlds. And I'm sure a few of you out there might be thinking, does the bloody nose mean he's related to 11? The evidence is extremely thin, but there's a theory out there called the Lonnie theory. It postulates that Will's dad, Lonnie, a known cheater, had an affair with 11's mom, Terry Ives, but there's zero evidence that the two knew each other. 11's story in Volume 1 revolves around taking down Vecna and proving to Hopper she has what it takes. Hopper, however, remains the overprotective father. He knows what it's like to lose a daughter far too early, as we'll see multiple times this season flashbacks to him losing his daughter Sarah. In the volume's final episode, Hopper and 11 make their way to the government's military base in the Upside Down, a place run by a Dr. K who runs various experiments on creatures from the void. She needs 11 because she is, quote, running into a wall, which could mean that her experiments have yielded little results, or a reference to the actual meat wall we'll get into in a bit. She believes that if she doesn't get 11, more innocent people will die. In her mind, she's not the villain here. She sees 11 as a homicidal maniac who's killed many good military men. Much of Volume 1 centers around trying to find Vecna, who they believe to be hiding in the Upside Down. The only problem is getting in there when the entire city of Hawkins is in a military lockdown. In the aftermath of Season 4, the military has patched up the crevices caused by Vecna and remains on guard at the main gate known as the Military Access Control Zone, or MAC-Z. They have to undergo dangerous missions known as crawls in the hopes of finding Vecna's whereabouts. And by the final episode of Volume 1, they believe Vecna has been captured by the military. Hopper even goes into the facility strapped with explosives, something he calls a failsafe. But the thing they think lies behind this large steel door isn't Vecna at all. It's Eleven's quote-unquote sister, Callie. We saw Callie in Season 2 as the leader of a group of outcasts who hunt down and kill those who hurt them at Hawkins Lab. Callie tried to teach Eleven to harness her power through anger, but Eleven ultimately rejected this violent path. Callie has different abilities than Eleven. Hers lay more in mental manipulation. She can make people see, hear, or feel things that aren't there. This is a power, if she ends up joining Eleven, that will definitely come in handy. But what was Dr. K doing with Callie? I'm guessing this machine they have her hooked up on suppresses her abilities, and that Dr. K was performing more experiments. I wonder if they could or have used her abilities for their own gain. Like, has anything happened in Volume 1 that's an illusion created by her at the behest of the military? Between Eleven, Will, and Callie, our characters are turning more and more into actual D&D archetypes. Eleven the mage, Will the sorcerer, Callie the illusionist, and there's even some foreshadowing of Holly becoming the cleric. At school, Mike gives her sister a custom-made D&D cleric figurine. One of her powers is that she can create a dimension door that can teleport you anywhere you visualize. This might hold the key in getting the kids back from Dimension X. Mike also foreshadows how I think the entire series will end. In Episode 1, he makes a metaphor to how a D&D campaign ends. The party doesn't return to where they started, in this case Hawkins. They travel to a faraway, peaceful land, somewhere beautiful to start again together. I bet we'll see our heroes make their way out of Hawkins by the end of the story. Now let's talk a little bit about this giant meat wall. The wall is one of Season 5's biggest mysteries. Composed of organic monster flesh, the wall is seemingly impenetrable. There doesn't seem to be an entrance, at least none that we've seen. All we really know about it is that it's circular, and thanks to Dustin paying attention in algebra, has calculated that in the very center of this circle is the Hawkins Lab, the place where all of this started. And is it just me, or did that dude's piss sizzle when peeing on it? It's a long shot, but I imagine the military would have already figured that out now if that were the case. Think of this circular wall like a construction site. It's protecting what's inside until Vecna's plan is ready. What I think Vecna is creating is essentially a tunnel that will connect Dimension X, the alien homeworld of the monsters, through the Upside Down, and eventually to Hawkins and the entire world. He's planning an invasion of the entire planet. There are two key scenes that foreshadow this. One happens all the way in Season 1 when Mr. Clark uses a paper plate to explain how a tunnel inside a wormhole can connect two different dimensions. The second is Season 5. In Erica's class, it's Mr. Clark again who has an Einstein-Rosen bridge diagram on the chalkboard. The Einstein-Rosen bridge is just a fancy term for the name of that wormhole tunnel. We already know Vecna wants to replace humanity, and to do so he'll need to invade. A tunnel that connects his dimension to ours would help facilitate this. The Hawkins Lab being at the direct center of this makes sense. It's where the portal known as the Mother Gate was built, establishing a link between our world and the Upside Down. It was in Season 1 when Eleven touched the Demogorgon in the psychic void that she inadvertently connected Vecna's dimension to the Upside Down, finally linking Vecna's world to our own. This is why I think what's behind that wall will lead to some sort of connection between Vecna's world and our own. This could possibly include a tesseract, a method of travel that involves space folding. It's often represented as this four-dimensional cube, which, coincidentally enough, we see Derek has constructed. Holly herself might create a tesseract in the form of a portal if she indeed becomes Holly the Heroic, with the power to teleport anywhere she imagines. With Volume 2 of 3 releasing on Christmas Day, there's lots of time to get your thoughts and theories in, so be sure to write what you think will happen in the comments below. Thanks for watching, be sure to like and subscribe, and for more bad takes you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ThinkStoryYT. Until next time, remember, Daddy loves you very much.